There are many constants in the video gaming landscape, EA being dicks to developers and consumers alike with their many awful business practices, Activision Blizzard and their love for all the money gone from in-game loot box gambling, and firing lots of people just to expand. That sounds about right. And Hi-Rez's use of Unreal Engine 3 to make ultimately fun and enjoyable games that I regret playing sometimes, given how many bugs arise in each patch, and how many skins arrive to exacerbate the problem. This is where the Hunt initiative comes in, an initiative started by the Paladin developer studio Evil Mojo, a subsidiary of Hi-Rez, to start actively improving overall game experience when it came to finding bugs, general game polish, and just other nice UI touch-ups. Took them 3 years, but we now have an actual development team that has been split up and populated sufficiently to do both skins and pay attention to bugs. What's missing from The Hunt, however, is the complete lack of attention to how unfair the hitboxes are in Paladins. And by hitboxes, I mean one cylindrical hitbox and one head hitbox, both straight out of the 1990s. Yes, the game now uses an almost 15 to 25-year-old method of registering hits in its game. It's absurd. Absurdly unfair. I decided to do the only thing I know how to do, and indulge my massive nerd nature once more to see how bad these hitboxes actually are. The very short answer is very. They are bigger than necessary, inconsistent behaviour between champions, and sometimes even play sessions. The hitbox type Paladins uses is most definitely really misleading to players who don't know about it, and I hope you're happy with that decision, Hi-Rez, making the game easier by requiring a cursory knowledge of aiming, baby's first hero shooter if you will. A side note to all this, and I have to get this off my chest otherwise I can't put it anywhere else in this video, these were very bloody tedious to record. That's the sole reason it took so long to make this video, by the way. This thing could have been out weeks before Atlas's release, but my patience with the server system in Paladins wore thin really quickly. The system is poorly thought out to say the least. I live in Europe. Stop changing it to North America. Thank you. As you can imagine, this specifically pissed me off really quickly when I have to change the same settings multiple times in a single session. I've been recording this since the start of February. That's how annoying the server system is to deal with. You can't party up with people, then join a server. Why? Anyway, I've taken the liberty of compiling a running list of each champion as I tested them and placed them into this diagram. This diagram will show us how many champions have flaws that are glaring enough to warrant talking about: misleading hit detection and broken hit detection. So, let's start by talking about the champions that fall into the first column, shall we? Here's the misleading hit detection list. Yep. Every single champion has misleading hit detection to some degree, and can be subject to a body shot by shooting the air that's immediately around them. This is because, as I mentioned earlier, the game uses an outdated form of hit detection known as a cylindrical hitbox for the body, or a capsule hitbox as I'll refer to it in the video from now on, it's more catchy. It roughly looks like this, which means that the space around the regular sized champions, thinner and smaller champions such as Androxus, Cassie, Dredge, Eevee, Grok, Imani, Inara, Genos, Kinessa, Koga, Lex, Lian, Maeve, Maldamba, Moji, Pip, Ceres, Charlene, Sky, Strix, Talus, Tyra, Victor, Vivian, Willow, Ying, and Xin. They all have disproportionately large hitboxes for their body type. They can all be hit between their legs or, again, in places where logically the shot shouldn't register, making the body shot hitbox all the more frustrating to deal with when you have a Victor up your arse who won't stop pestering you with all the bullets he can spray your way. So if you've ever gotten the feeling that the shots that came from the enemy shouldn't have hit you as Lian or Maeve, now you know why. You feel fatter, as it were, when in fact you're not. You're slim. But the game doesn't treat you like that. This hit detection system is a relic of the closed beta days, which is pretty much the only instance where I find those sort of hitboxes acceptable, considering the game isn't out yet and that it's not a developer's main priority. That would be working on the game's kinks and adjusting the gameplay to feel good. The cylindrical capsule hitboxes should have been upgraded to dynamic hitboxes such as cuboids or cylindrical spheroids when it left closed beta. At the latest, it should have not gone past OB10, long enough for you to convert the champions to much fairer hitboxes that cover the arms, legs, heads, hands, feet, and depending on the champion, hair, without spaces that somehow register body shots by shooting near their location, or at their feet. You should not place the vast majority of a champion's body in a capsule and be expected for your players to just deal with it. There's a reason why games with competitive followings such as CSGO, Overwatch, Rainbow Six Siege, Fortnite, hell, even TF2 has a niche competitive following. They use dynamic hitboxes. CSGO uses cylindrical spheroids, which are very fancy, while TF2 uses cuboids. CSGO ones are better and are more accurate, but TF2's ones are good enough for what most people play TF2 for, casually on a Friday night with mates. Cuboids are the way forward for paladins, not capsules. I don't know what hitbox detection other games use, the games don't make it clear, but I'm betting on cylindrical spheroids rather than cuboids or capsules. So, with all this information in mind, and the fact Paladins also has a competitive scene, it's why we have the god-awful mixer store that's so grindy it's absurd. Why are capsule hitboxes still being used in a game where there are tournaments where you can win real money for goods and services? Doesn't that inherently lower the skill ceiling, considering you could just spray bullets in Leon's general direction and hit her? Certainly doesn't sound fun, does it? I can tell you from experience it isn't. Now, I'm pretty sure detractors will inform me that the capsule hitbox allows for greater freedom for the developer to create more complex skins, and therefore the skins' extra features, such as the many spiky skins we have. Crystals, frilly stresses, etc. that are part of their hitbox. Most of the time, this is indeed the case. It does give you leeway to make skins with a million spikes on Terminus, or more complex armor on Khan, or whatever. But here's the thing. The extra cosmetics should absolutely not be part of the hitbox system. Players tend to, no matter how good at the game they are, aim at the parts of the body that would make sense to count as a body shot, so arms, legs, heads, etc. Treating the game like any other first-person shooter because other games have reasonable hitboxes. Even if you're aware of the capsule hitboxes covering 95% of the body in your head, it's quite likely you'll be aiming at the obvious extremities anyway, as if you've played any other FPS, you won't be aware that you're playing Paladins like other FPSs. Dynamic hitboxes have been so codified by other video games to inflict damage on the enemy that you can see, something which Paladins lacks outside of the head hitbox, that people aim like that in Paladins unless told otherwise by Shami or the developers, and they're quite coy with that information. I wonder why. We have this amazing ability to look at a character and disregard the extra bits of clothing and then discern which are the important bits to shoot on the fly, even when those parts are sufficiently covered up. We make our brain filter out the extra bits of clothing that would not correspond to what the person would be normally be wearing. I know what Khan normally looks like, so I know where to shoot. Most players shoot at what they can see, which makes it more frustrating when you get lucky shots for spraying and praying. Before I get too angry, let's move on to category 2, broken hit detection. Basically, this is a list of all the champions, parts of the body that are not put into the capsule hitbox, but should be for all intents and purposes, and other interesting oddities. If you thought my little rant was long, oh boy, you've heard nothing yet. Grab a coffee. We'll be here a while. Drogos. If you try and shoot his nose from the side, well, you're not gonna land a headshot, or a shot for that matter. Yes, only a tiny amount of his head is out of the hitbox, but that's still a problem, as we've discussed. And I'm pretty sure his snout is bigger with other skins, such as DZ03 Draco, making the problem much more obvious. I don't know, I don't have the skin, and I didn't test skins. Also, his tail isn't part of the hitbox either, which is understandable, but, you know, still part of the character, still flesh. Look, I don't want to be inflicted with 1,000 damage by someone hitting his tail, so I would advise some damage scaling of, say, 200 for his tail. Speaking of his extremities not covered by the capsule, Imani. Her braided hair isn't covered by the capsule, or rather some of it is. This is the tail issue, only with braided hair, and it gets more complex. Imani's recolor, Warder, removes her hair, which makes me very conflicted as to whether or not her hair should count as a hitbox or not. Since we're judging this on the default skin, then yes, her hair should be part of the hitbox, which I'm aware people will disagree with me on this, and leave an empty space that is still shootable is not a good solution. But I can't see a solution other than shaving Imani's head off by default, or not having her hair shaved. Her hair is present in all but Warder, so again I'd recommend some damage scaling of 200, even on her Warder skin. Sorry in advance. Fernando. Fernando's a short one, and the first tank me and Claudio tested, my loyal crash test dummy. His armour covered most of the capsule with only his helmet feather thing, whatever the name for it is, not counting hits, which makes sense. Unlike a tail, logically speaking, lasers, bullets, magical fire would pass through it, so I'm happy for Hi-Rez to not count it in the capsule hitbox anyway. The only thing to mention here of any concern is that the shield's hitbox is a bit bigger on top than it should be. Not by a huge margin, but it's worth mentioning here as it covers a little bit more than it should. Furia. Her wings are the problem here, they are mostly not covered by the hitbox, the white feathers at the top being the exception, and even that has fall off. Considering her character prominently displays them, I don't know why the wings don't have some sort of hit reg. Now, I'm guessing making hitboxes for each feather is unreasonable, and that's fair enough. A lot of the work for little reward, I'm fine as it is. What I am saying is that the wings are a tad bit misleading, because they look big enough for you to consider shooting at them, despite trying to hit them does bugger all. Basically, don't try and clip her wings, fellow players. Won't work. Grok. This is the first instance of the hitbox not covering something that should absolutely count as a body shot, the arms. Grok's right arm isn't covered by the capsule when shooting at it from a certain angle, so it doesn't register hits. No body shot, no anything. This is a problem for the reasons I mentioned with Furia. It looks hittable, so it should be, except where you can make the argument for wings being excluded out of how difficult those would be to, do, there's no defense for leaving Grok's right arm out. His right back foot also wasn't part of the capsule either, but the arm is way more egregious. Bear in mind, these shots were taken when he was idle. It's quite possible his running animation changes his arm to be included in the capsule. But I didn't test that, as firstly, I'm not your QA staff, Hi-Rez, and secondly, it's quite hard to test it, and I also didn't want to test my patience. This is also the first instance where I posted this bug early onto Reddit, because, the hunt and all that, and also because of the severity of the bug, and should be fixed pretty much immediately. I also posted this to the Paladins bug reporting forum, fat lot of good that did, when it decided to load properly, and also on Twitter, but nobody from the company has come back to me with any response. A simple thank you for finding this would have been nice, I guess. Oh well, it's all up from here. Grover. Like with Furia, Grover has a defining feature of the character that is not part of the capsule. In Grover's case, it's his leaves on the top. There's only one skin that removes them, Groverbot, which was released way after the game release. Grover has been a base game character and a canon immigrant from Smite, so I find the lack of leaves on that skin a tad bit odd. Again, like with Furia, I don't mind that these don't count as part of the capsule hitbox, but it does make hitting them more frustrating when you find that out for the first time that they don't count towards a body shot. Makoa. A tiny portion of the back of his shell is not part of the capsule hitbox, meaning hitting the center of his shell from the side on does not register a hit. That's it, really. I didn't test his dome shield as that can be detached from the character, and it's big enough to get hit from a mile away, so I didn't bother testing it. Pip. Like with other champions on this list, his feet are not part of the capsule hitbox, and like with Drogoz, neither is his tail, or rather the paintbrush end of it. Now, unlike Drogoz's tail, Pip's tail is rather big, about a third of his body in height, so perhaps that should be counted as something a little bit more than as a non-hit. Ruckus and Bolt. Ah yeah, my favourite part of Vitriolic Buds. Bolt's miniguns are not part of the capsule, which is a bit of a problem. This is actually a good time to point out that no character apart from Ying has their weapon hand or their weapons as part of their hitbox, but in this case, considering Bolt is a Golem Mind Stone attached to a mech, I'd argue that while a lot of champions' weapons should absolutely be separate from the hitbox system, the difference here is the mech is the weapon, so I would say the guns should have a hitbox. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. It seems reasonable to me. Ceres. The back of her dress, the drapey part, has no hitbox. That's it really. Aside from the massive spaces between her head. But I've mentioned all the champions are afflicted with this condition. Though on a related note, Strix's body shot hitbox bizarrely goes over his head, almost 3/4 of her head over his actual head. It's weird. Looking at his skin shows that the only one that makes use of that space is Bad Mother Clucker, and even then, it's not a huge helmet or anything, it's a chicken comb, and again, skins don't matter. Now, my theory for why this happened is down to his pose he has on the Strix page in the champions menu, which has him stand straight, not bent over slightly in a hunch during his idle animation in game. Adding credence to this theory is the fact that the body shot reg space above his head gets twice as big when he slouches over and grabs his Lugia flare gun. This is why you have dynamic hitboxes, people, so stuff like this does not happen. That is still just like 3/4 of a head taller. That's a full head.
This is worse.
This needs fixing. This is just outright unfair. Charlene. Like with Pip, his feet are out of the hitbox no matter the stance he has. If he draws his bow, then his elbow goes outside of the capsule and does not register valid hits. His head has also a very dodgy headshot hitbox, being very misaligned on anything but at the front, and we checked while he was shooting and it somehow became more misaligned. Also, it's good to know that when we did recording with Charlene and Brightmarsh, the wind bug, that happened.
I'm back.
Hello, hold on. I'm very aware.
So is my noise.
Yes. You can just hear him coming. It's really annoying. Sky. Her feet are not part of the capsule, again due to her idle stance. Short, sweet, has loads of blank space where body shots count. Next. Talus. Talus's tail doesn't have a hitbox, and half of it isn't included within the capsule, which makes sense given both how thin it is and how much it moves around about in most animations. I'm willing to let this slide as not being part of a hitbox of any kind, as it's quite a lot smaller and thinner than most other tails. Drogo's tail is fatter, Pip's is bigger, Maeve doesn't have one normally, you get the picture. Not worth adding, not worth removing, fine either way. His crown, however, or specifically the bottom right part of his crown, is included in there in his head hitbox, which is a bit odd. Talus's feet are, once again like others, not part of the capsule, at least when fully idle. When he moves about in his idle stance, which is quite a lot, he's a fidgety little devil, and his feet move in and out of the capsule, which of course can cause problems, especially while he's running, because he has a very weird running stance. Torvald. Torvald's issue is that his shield is not covering his feet, but is part of the capsule. The shield itself is quite a good indicator of the capsule itself, but it's not perfect. His feet being outside the shield is a tad bit misleading in game, but what can you do? Oh wait, yeah, fix it. Tyra. Tyra's capsule hitbox is lopsided to favour the left side, I do actually mean the left side this time, making it easier to shoot at her at certain angles. Not much more to say really, her cape is included as are her feet, so you know, swings and roundabouts I guess. Ying.
I'm throwing that one.
Boom! Headshot!
No, it's not a headshot, Canessa, stop saying that! Her illusion mirror, it's inside the capsule itself and also counts as a body shot, which is as absurd as it sounds. This is problematic as it makes Ying appear bigger than she actually is. Again, a problem that would not be present if dynamic hitboxes were used. Her head hitbox does not count her ponytail as her head, despite it being on her head, as well as her left hand not being in the capsule, which can obviously be a problem for reasons I've explained elsewhere in the video. Zin. The lower half of his left arm is out of the capsule in his idle stance, like Rox, and his feet are not part of the capsule, like with other characters on this list. Okay, that was a lot to get through. Just because a character didn't make it onto that specific list does not mean they have zero problems. They still all can be shot outside of their model, so remember that. Also, how was your coffee? Is the cup empty now? So, with all this said, all the flaws that the current capsule hitbox Paladins uses laid out on the table, bare for all to see, here is the question I posit to you, Evil Mojo. When are you going to change them? Because you can't keep this system forever. I've discussed the flaws with capsule hitboxes and their effect on each character that have particularly egregious issues, but the TLDR is that capsule hitboxes are not form-fitting to the character, they don't hold a candle to the modern age of dynamic hitboxes like cylindrical spheroids or cuboids, of which both are used by competitive games, and for a good reason. Because they're accurate, and because they cover all the bits of the body people expect it to. Arms, legs, hands, they're all covered by dynamic hitboxes to make aiming a thing you have to actually think about more precisely, especially at top levels of play, and they leave minimal blank spaces for body shots to occur, rewarding skill. And don't go trying to defend the fact that it will somehow impede character creation either, much like somehow it will impede skin creation, which is just absurd as there are games that I've mentioned that have similar body structures that work just fine with dynamic hitboxes. Oh look! Amazing how that works.
Can shoot between the legs and it doesn't work? What?
I know. Oh, I'll shot your leg. Amazing. I can shoot through your legs.
Damn.
Pinnacle of hitbox technology. Straight out of 2007. Possibly earlier than that. Right, cabin? Yes, it's cabin. Okay. Yeah, cabin is the headshot, as I suspected. Ruckus's isn't, by the way. It's his actual head. So don't bother trying to aim at the cabin. Aim at his head. Obviously.
Easy mode.
That should not have hit. That should not have hit. I'm sorry. That should not have hit. There is a lot of blank space on top and slightly on the side.
Maybe it's because D.Va's so small that they were like...
I can shoot like blank space. They might actually be using a capsule hitbox for her, at least partially. Okay, they are to an extent. Like that's where the capsule starts. Like your legs are fine. And then maybe it makes D.Va easier to hit when she's small, because she is, to be fair, quite small.
I mean, she is very small. Yeah, I feel like they need to give like some leeway. So
yes, like I'm not against leeway. That's the thing. That's not what I'm against. I'm against just absurdly big leeway. Just make them more reasonable.
I think what you mean is like leeway for every character, and not specific characters that need that leeway.
Yes. Okay, we don't need you anymore.
Goodbye.
There we go. Right. Have they been clever? Yes, they have. They actually have made it a circle. Well played. I mean, to be fair, Torvald does the exact same thing. His shield is still a shield. Can you spam in and out of ball form really quickly? Real quick. Just keep doing it until I tell you to stop. Okay.
From ball to normal mode,
Yeah, it's pretty much instant. It stays in ball hitbox until the animation is complete by the looks of things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, obviously I'm not a precision timed person, but I can tell that's what it's doing.
I actually wonder if you can shoot between his leg and the ball, because I know it...
Oh, probably not. No, you can. You can shoot the floor just under him, but it doesn't register hits.
Doesn't count.
Doesn't count. They've actually thought about it. Fair play to them. That's you. No, okay, fine.
Oh,
your
I regen
cloth
as well.
counts. Yeah, you've got regening health. Forgot about that. You're a paladin's character. Your cloth, oddly enough, counts as a hitbox, which is very weird. I mean, to be
Again,
fair,
maybe because she's so thin.
yeah, she's so thin. She
It
must.
does.
It must count it. Yeah. Which again, I am fine with.
I
Okay.
think they give leeways to like thin characters so
Yes.
that they're not as hard to...
Like if because Leanne wears a robe on the back of her, I would be fine. Oh, it already is actually. To be fair, if like she has a similar thing to Mercy, okay, I would be fine. Okay, if you made her thinner with an actual hitbox, and that would remain. Okay, that wouldn't bother me. Okay, I don't mind leeway. The leeway I do mind is just absurdly powerful stuff. So keep doing that real quick if you can. Oh, keep holding it even. There. Also, I need to check here her wings because I assume they must not. They do count. Okay.
This ain't no Furia.
Furia, eat your heart out.
Yeah.
Another Mercy.
I think they're only yellow when I... It's just a factory. That's the factory. The spawn is factory. And as one dies, another Mercy gets made.
Yeah. Yeah. Do they ever turn yellow outside of dying?
I think it's only alt.
Oh,
I think it's only
okay.
when I alt.
I swear it went through. Yeah, it does go through. It actually tracks it. So each, for lack of a better word, feather, okay, it's actually got its own hitbox.
Yeah.
So, and unlike the Paladins ones where they're like not separated, with very few exceptions, the Battle Angel skin has them separated, but that's a skin. Okay, the actual Furia, if you've seen them, okay, they're like in a blob, so you could quite reasonably do hitboxes on them. Okay, yeah, it's weird. Like I'm glad they do that because Mercy's wings are quite small compared to Fury's, which are like twice the size easily. Immediately after you say it.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Could've-
Mercy number 3. Come out, please. It's just this opens up and it's just like I'm out. Right, let's
Sorry.
Grab a health pack.
I gotta do that at some point.
On SFM, you should do that.
Yes.
Did someone call a doctor?
Go, use it. Oh wow, that was quite a... Nope, doesn't count.
Don't count.
Yeah, they don't count. I can confirm. Marissa? Thank you. Bit of blank space on one side, surprisingly. Her neck doesn't count, but her rest of it does. Let's try horns. Nope, horns don't count. That is actually kind of surprising. Oh, yeah, don't move, Marissa. Thank you. Yeah, horns don't count, really. Right. Your loincloth bit partially counts.
And doesn't.
Yeah, it does and doesn't. Like the Pip's tail situation. Some of it does, some of it doesn't.
Does she have a tail?
No. No tail.
No.
No move.
Didn't mean to do that. She's actually pretty reasonable, all things considered.
Hell, I'm pretty sure that Evil Mojo does have limits to keep in bounds of the capsule hitbox. It's a big limit, sure, but it's still a limit. Dynamic hitboxes will not impede character creation, nor skin creation. If you make a slim character with a fat capsule hitbox like Leon or Cassie's, then expect them to be harder to hit because, you know, they're thinner and should be harder to hit. Not easier because they're thinner and have a massive capsule hitbox to compensate for their body build. I want consistency. Many of us want that for the game. It's up to you, Hi-Rez. The thing you care about the most as publisher is money, expanding the games to be semi-juggernauts as well as their respective esports leagues. I don't have a problem with these end goals. However, I do have a problem with your seeming unwillingness to make the game significantly fairer to play on all levels of player skill, be it casual down the pub on my laptop or competitively in a stadium somewhere on a beast gaming PC. I'm willing to bet there are a lot of competitive players that know about these capsule hitboxes and how to play with them and around them, and probably wish the game didn't have them, so Paladins could be fairer for everyone. This single change game much more consistent, more fun to play, reward a player's accuracy and skill far more than it does currently, and will be better for the game overall. I am not going to say it's not going to be easy to implement. I'm betting it isn't. It'd probably be quite repetitive development wise, but that's your own doing. You've made a conscious decision to use inaccurate, outdated hitboxes that should have stayed in the 90s, like neon hair gel and those weird zigzags on clothing and merchandise. Besides, you seem to care about Paladins, Evil Mojo. The actions you've done recently have proven that to me, like the aforementioned hunt for bugs that Helvian has found for you, as well as your loyal forum members. The only downside I can think of for you redoing these hitboxes in your games is that it'll make some players rethink how they shoot, and by some players I mean the ones that know and exploit the gaps to win, which is to say professional players and dicks. The two are not mutually exclusive. As I said, and it bears repeating, people have been conditioned by other FPSs to shoot at what they can see, not at what they can't see, so most players' playstyle won't actually change. Hell, I know about these capsule hitboxes and I still aim like I would in TF2 or Overwatch because that's how I expect the game to work, when that currently isn't true. But who's to say what you do, eh? I'm yet another whiny British YouTuber who actually cares about this game. I'm not a QA guy, neither is Helvian for that matter, but boy do you have a long way to go if you want to make your game the best in their genres, because with hitboxes like these, that's not gonna happen. I'll put my research in the description as well as on this Reddit post, as well as the script I'm currently using, and also the raw footage should someone want it, because, you know, I like being thorough. So, Hi-Rez, time to get to work. Don't let me down. So, with all this information... So, with all this... I need a drink, hang on. That doesn't help.